Another thing that was interesting to me, sort of Connie was an artist and still an artist type in arts administration, Albie an aspiring photographer, Douglas an outsider to the art, but really working on approaching it. And one of the lovely parts of the novel is describing various museums and art in them from the point of view of someone who isn't didactic about it the way he can be didactic about so many things. So it's as if he's coming upon it new as we would, as we just stumbled into a museum. And I'm interested, why the fine arts? I mean, you could have chosen, for instance, acting, which, as you mentioned, is your background.
I've written in, I mean, often as a novelist, you want to do something that's, a lot of the inspiration for a book comes from, in a kind of perverse way, from doing the opposite to what you've done before. And a lot of the characters I've written before have been writers. You know, Emma in One Day was a writer, and she also dabbled in acting. I wrote a whole novel about the theatre called The Understudy, and the central character in my first novel, he was passionate about writing and literature, and for me it was a challenge in my own life. Until I was 16 or 17, I wanted to be a scientist. You know, I wanted to be a doctor or a scientist, and that was what I was best at. And going into the arts, studying English, studying theatre, for me was a bit of a swerve, and I've always had certain insecurities about that world, and I do even now walk into art galleries and feel a little insecure about what I meant to be responding to and how I should be responding. So I wanted to write about that, partly write about my own insecurities and anxieties about the visual arts, about painting, how we tell a great painting from a mediocre painting, which I still don't understand, and also to write about someone who feels about science the way I feel about writing. You know, he's really passionate about it, very idealistic about it, and inspired. Talking to scientists when I was writing the book, that's what struck me, was how it's not a different world at all. That they talk about play, they talk about imagination, they talk about creativity. It's also, which came as a surprise to me, quite an insecure profession, being a scientist. And I was surprised as much by the similarities between science and the world of the arts in the broad sense as I was by the differences.